Hi guys, welcome to iOS tutorial from dukestech.com. In this series, we are going to see how to implement MVVM, Model View View Model. It's a popular design pattern in iOS and Android development. It basically separates app into three layers: model, view. Model contains the structure and the classes, basically data structures. View model contains the business logic, data interpretation, and the view represents the UI. So let's get started. Open up the Xcode, create a new project, okay. So we'll create step by step all the layers. First step is to create a model layer. So in this example, we are going to connect to an API and get the data from the API and display the data on the table view. So we require API. So this is the API we are going to use. Displays information such as contacts, name, email address, etc. So based on this, we'll create data structure. At the root, we can see contacts, which is nothing but an array. So array is represented by square bracket, and dictionaries are represented by the curly braces. So first, we'll create a model layer, and we'll create script file under that. Name it as user. Okay, you can give any name here. I'm going to create a structure user. So the root element, it contains a array, and in that array it contains a lot of dictionaries. So we'll first create a root. It can be any name you can give. So it has to be following a Codable protocol, since we are going to decode the JSON data, and we have to copy this. Has to match the name exactly as it is. We are going to create one more structure called contact. It has to conform to Codable protocol, and inside that you can see a lot of attributes like ID, name, email address, etc. So you can add all those attributes. In this example, we are going to add only few attributes like name, email, etc. So you can add all those attributes. And if you find it difficult to create this kind of structure, there's a simple way. Just copy all this JSON data and go to this site app.quicktab, paste all those JSON data, and you can see on the right side generates a Swift structure similar to the one we have created here. So we can just copy all these things and replace here. Anything is fine. So for the simplicity, I delete all this. I'm just going to take only few attributes. So this data is given by this site, and okay, the first step is model is done. The next step is view model. You create a new group, a new file under that, call it parser. So we are going to write a function that connects to our API and gets the data and pass that into our file, display some data. So we need an API first. So the server gives the data in the JSON format. So we need to decode that. For that, first we need to open up the URL session first. It says it expects 3 arguments. So it gives 3 kinds of data to us: the data, response, and error. This is a closure, so we'll give in, and we have to unwrap it. The optional. So first we'll check for the error. If error for some condition, if there is some kind of error, that is, if the error is not nil, some error exists, return. We can print the error and return. If in case of no error, process the data. So we have to call JSON decoder in order to decode. So here we have to pass the model we have created and the data. This data corresponds to this one. It says value optional must be unwrapped. Okay, we'll unwrap. Call can through. It has to be done in a do catch block. And try. So we have to assign this to some variable. Say result or something, whatever. Okay. And we'll just print it and see if it's working fine. And now we have created view model. Third step is to create controller. This is optional, so some people have controller and view under the same group. I prefer to separate it out. I just create a new layer called controller, and I move this view controller to this controller. Here we create the instance for the view model. We call this pause function. So just run and see if it displays the data from the server. And one step we forgot is we need to call resume. Because this is an asynchronous task. This is done in the background and this starts in the suspended manner. So we have to call resume in order to resume the operation. Still the data is not displayed. Have to check in the model. So this is the root element. This one we have to give here, not other one. Yeah, I can see. the data you can display. So it works fine. It's able to connect to the API and pass the data in the JSON format. Data has come. Okay, the next step is to create the view. So just create, as before, one more group. Move the storyboard to view. We'll create a table view first and display the data from the API onto the table view. Constrain the table view. Add cell, give an identifier for the cell, and map this table view to the view controller. Open up the assistant editor. Sometimes it's a bug with the Xcode. You have to close and open it again. See here now showing the view controller. So we have to map the view controller, sorry, the table view to the view controller. Control drag. Okay, so we are done with this view. Head back over to the view controller. So we'll add the required methods for the table view. So we'll add it in an extension for the better arrangement. We'll call UI table view data source. This protocol doesn't conform to the protocol, just click fix. So we need data. We just create a temporary data variable here. Say contacts of type. It's an array of contact. Return contacts dot. Right now it's an empty array, so we have to map this with the view model data that we'll do later. So we'll first create cell, cell identifier, and we'll give some valuables. Text label from the contacts index for name, and we'll return the cell. Okay, so one important step is to we need to set the table view data source to the view controller. Now we need to get the data from the view model. For that, we have to go to the view model. So as I said before, it's an asynchronous operation. So this returns the data after some time. It's a time-consuming process. So we have to return the data here using a closure. Service known as completion handler here. So once the API returns the data, we can call this data from this function using completion handler. So here we have to pass the same array of contact. It has to be escaping, so just have to mark this keyword because this data is returned after the function executes and returns. So it's set to escape the return type of the function and move on to the view controller. We have added an argument, so it says missing argument. It's a closure and it's a trailing closure, so this variable, it can be anything. So just give data in and we assign this data to this variable here. So this is the data from the view model. Once we get the data, we need to refresh the table view, reload the data. So just run it once and see. Reference. And this will not work because it has to be called on the main thread. So anyway, let's see. See, it says it must be used from the main thread only because the parsing operation is done in the background thread and the table view is executed on the UI thread. So we'll call this table view function inside the UI thread. Run it and see. Yeah, awesome guys. So it's working fine. So we are able to get the data from the server and display it on the table view. And we have created 4 layers: model, view model, controller and views here. We can arrange this way: view model. The first step is to create model. So first we created model, and model should be based on the JSON structure, so that we have seen here based on this. And after that we created a view model that connects to the API using the URL session and JSON decoder. And then view controller, we create an object for this view model and get the data and manipulate the data and set it onto the table. So thank you guys. So we can call this tutorial done, and thank you for watching. If you find it useful, please like and subscribe. Thank you.